Episode 2, god damn it.
Folks, we've been having some audio setup issues.
Shut the fuck up. You goddamn. Folks, welcome back to the show. We've got a very interesting 7-Eleven to talk about today from Riverdale Park, Maryland.
That's one word for it.
Interesting is one word for it, that's for sure. It is an adjective. And this particular 7-Eleven is located on the corner of Baltimore Avenue and Sheridan Street in Riverdale Park, Maryland. Connor, you just returned from a several-week-long excursion. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your 7-Eleven journeys on the road or your convenience store journeys on the road?
I sure do, Nick, and thank you for that wonderful setup. All right, guys, so I was on the road down south. And I went to a lot of cities and a lot of states that do not have 7-Elevens. I spent a lot of time in Memphis. Not a single 7-Eleven in Memphis. I even looked it up. Nashville does have them. I didn't go to any on this trip, but they do have them. They got them in 2017. New Orleans, there are no 7-Elevens there. So the trip doesn't really make a lot of sense that I went to places like Mississippi and Louisiana where they have 0 7-Elevens, looking to review 7-Elevens. But, you know, that's the itinerary I chose. And, you know, that what happened. But last Thursday, I'm in Richmond, Virginia. And I'm getting ready to drive back to D.C. And I'm like, oh, I need to just hit like a 7-Eleven or, you know, any kind of gas station. Any kind of convenience store should be able to facilitate the needs that I had. I just wanted to use a restroom and I wanted a cup of coffee. Not asking a lot. I had to go to like 6 different stores. None of them had both. At one point we go into a store and they have no bathroom and no coffee. So then I'm like, oh, we'll go to this Wawa we were at the other night. Drive like 20 minutes to this Wawa, by the way. There's a water main break. There's no bathroom. And because there's no water, there is no coffee. We drove like 20 minutes to go to a fucking Wawa. So then we're just driving around and we're not even in Richmond anymore. We're in like Henrico County.
That's never a place you want to be.
And, where I'm driving out by the highway, I'm like, some place has to have both these things. Finally, I find a convenience store, like an Exxon or something, that does have a bathroom, but guess what they don't have? Coffee. By the way, it's only like, it's like 9 p.m. on a Thursday. It's not like out of the question to be getting coffee at 9 p.m. But, then I went to a 7-Eleven right by that Exxon. And sure enough, no coffee. Nothing, no coffee at all. No hot coffee whatsoever. I didn't want an energy drink. I didn't want to, stoop to that. I wanted a fucking hot thing of coffee. I was going to put it into my thermos. I'd already put ice in my thermos at one place. So then I even go to a McDonald's. No coffee. No one has coffee. It's getting, like, insane. I went to, literally by the end of this, 6 different stores. Finally, as I'm driving towards the highway after dropping my friend off, I finally find a Sheetz. And you know what they had, folks? They actually had coffee. Then later I ended up stopping at a 7-Eleven in Dumfries, Virginia, which I didn't think I was even in Dumfries. I'm on 95. I see a little sign for, at the exit, hey, at this exit, there's a 7-Eleven, a few other things. And I'm like, you know what? I'll stop at a 7-Eleven, make some content. This 7-Eleven's 5 miles down that. You have to go through neighborhoods. I thought I was lost at one point. I go to this 7-Eleven, and I don't even remember. I think I was just trying to get in Arizona because I had started drinking a lot of Arizonas in New Orleans, where you can actually still get them for $1 and some change at a lot of places. I get out, and of course, once again, big sign, no bathroom at this 7-Eleven, right? So there's some crazy guy out front talking to himself. I have to walk past him, go to the side of the store with him looking at me to pee. And of course the first thing I see on the ground is a syringe. So I'm like, great, awesome. Really wanted to see that. So then I go into the store and it's just a whole thing. They didn't have any of the good Arizona flavors. I had to get one I didn't really want, but whatever. And then I go out and tried to make a little video to promote the show that I never posted. And, of course, also, it's one where you have to get let in. And it's one guy working there, and he comes outside while I'm in my car making a video. And, just like Ben Affleck in that meme is just smoking a cigarette, just, sighing so visibly. This man is so disappointed with his life.
That now we're back to, not only are, you're working at a Dumfries, Virginia 7-Eleven, but now you got some guy, some young compatriot that is now making content in your parking lot about, the most mundane thing in the possible universe, about the job that you work at, that you come to every day, that you slave away at, as being produced for content, and you now have to investigate, or you have to rationalize why that might be.
He didn't care.
I believe he cared. I think the gears were in motion, and then that was his flight response from his fight or flight. It's just resignation, utter resignation.
He did not care. I also, while I was in that parking lot, I moved to get away from him because it was embarrassing. And then
you were embarrassed?
Some guy comes scrambling through the parking lot wearing a Chucky hoodie. And he, it was a scene. I don't know if y'all have ever been to Dumfries, but nothing good has ever happened there. It sucks. It's worse than Woodbridge.
Dumfries stinks.
That place sucks. I don't know the location exactly. It's out of our research area anyway.
Yep.
But Dumfries sucks. Stay out. Anyway, that has absolutely nothing to do with what we're supposed to be talking about today. And I'm sorry for coming in so hot, guys. But
it's fine. It's fine. Fuck Dumfries. Fuck Virginia. Fuck Northern Virginia. Fuck it all.
And you know what? I'm just going to get this out of the way right now. Fuck this 7-Eleven that we're about to talk about now, too. This Riverdale Park one.
Yeah, we thought that Edmonston and Seminole was the cake taker. However, upon entering the establishment known as the Riverdale Park 7-Eleven, a dark cloud came over us, and that dark cloud was a cloud of suspicion. I have on my sheet notes to the record as to the 7-Eleven's quality. Let's just get right into it. So let me set the stage. November 18th, 2023. It's about 12:31 a.m. We're pulling up. We're coming in hot. Have you ever seen in your life a 7-Eleven where you had to park off street? We're coming in from Route 1, and, you want to make that point about how this 7-Eleven's located?
Yeah, so this one's right at the intersection, the crossroads of 410 East-West Highway and Route 1. Right by, near that, McDonald's. But this 7-Eleven, which is new, by the way, it kind of came in, after the Whole Foods and after that area got super gentrified. This 7-Eleven is on Route 1. It's, just off just enough to where you can't get to it without having to get onto Route 1. You can't get to it from East-West Highway. So it's already, that dings it a little bit, that it's not accessible from both roads. Even though you can see it from East-West Highway, I'm pretty sure.
Yes.
But you have to get on Route 1, and it's kind of a pain.
It's an obnoxious 7-Eleven for that reason, and for this reason that we pull up in this lot, there's nowhere to park because some truck, which was not making any deliveries, truck touch bullshit.
People were coming in and out of the truck.
I saw no cargo. I saw no pallets. I saw no product.
There was nowhere to park. And it's a pretty big parking lot. It's not one that should ever totally fill up. But the way the truck pulled in, it was blocking more spots than it needed to. So you could have gone around the truck and parked, and then it would have been a huge pain getting out.
Yes.
So that right away loses points in my book.
Yes.
Inaccessibility.
Yes, inaccessibility to
parallel
cars.
Park.
Parallel parking at a 7-Eleven. Jesus Christ, people. But I digress. We park off the street and we walk up. And, the thing about newer 7-Elevens is that they carry this facade, these airs, if you will, of this, this attempt at masonry that they masquerade themselves. You get in, there's this phony red brick stuff, and if you peel it back, I'm sure the craftsmanship leaves a lot to be desired. I just don't respect, this aura that it gives off that defies, the kind of the classical interpretation we have, from a visual perspective of 7-Elevens. It's an affront. It's an affront, goddammit. Anyway, so we go inside. At first,
Well,
thinking,
Nick, I think you're leaving out kind of a crucial point. What did you come inside with? What
all
did
right,
you bring
all
with
right,
you
all
when you
right,
went
all
inside?
right, all right.
The very thing from
So-
which we are reading notes right now.
So if you saw our Instagram stories from before this aired, you'll notice this as well. So I came in with a legal pad, because I figured that if we're doing some investigative journalism, then we need to have some vehicle, some mechanism, of recording our thoughts. Now we could use audio recording, but that would require us to have long, lengthy, loud conversations the whole time we're there. And some stuff is better left to the written word, to the manuscript, if you will. And I consider, my notes to be a palimpsest. I am writing, on top of, from previous observations. I'm doing my field notes anyway. So I have a legal pad, classic legal pad.
And he was writing live notes. He was also transcribing what I said.
Yes. I was trying to get everything. I was trying to portray the context.
I also want to point out real quick that this wasn't even the 7-Eleven we meant to go to that night.
No, it wasn't.
We wanted to go to another one, an older one,
Yes.
on Route 1 in Hyattsville. That was closed. Because that's another thing a lot of PG County 7-Elevens have started doing since the pandemic. It's just closing at like 11 p.m.
It's
which
unbelievable.
Is bullshit.
So the first thing that Connor says when we actually go inside the doors is one word. Derivative. Derivative, folks. And I couldn't agree more. He also says that I'm not doing it, because we're just disappointed as we walk around this place, We're not seeing anything that's given us any point of excitement or any point of enjoyment for that matter. I will say though, upon entering the fridge, they did pass the fridge test. The drinks were cold. The drinks were cold.
We have it on record. He said cold.
Cold. The record illustrates
Written
that.
And visual and audio.
Yes.
We have it in every medium.
If we could send touch medium, we would, but we can't. But they were cold, and we were very excited about that. It didn't take long, though, for this excursion to get wildly out of hand. And this happened about maybe 45 seconds after the temp test. And that's when we turned the corner to check out the coffee machines. We were satisfied with a middling visit, but when we turned that corner, all hell broke loose. Connor and I immediately noticed a huge spill, which it's nighttime.
And no coffee was available.
Oh
They didn't
yeah,
have
that's
any,
right.
Which
The machines were off.
My earlier story. Obviously, this is a trigger for me. That I feel like, especially a 7-Eleven in a pretty urban area, you should have. It wasn't that late. You should have at least one half pot of the worst coffee for whoever's buying coffee at that time.
I agree 10,000%. Now, if you're going to have coffee, the little coffee that they did have didn't make its way to a nice insulated thermal cup design. No, it made its way to the floor.
That's the only place we saw coffee.
Yes, the only place that had coffee in the joint was on the ground, and we were not about to get on our hands and knees like a dog and lick it up. No, we pointed it out. And it's at this point when we make some gestures towards the huge spill on the ground.
Let me tell this part.
Okay, cool. He doesn't trust me to tell this part.
Well, I witnessed what happened to you.
All right. Why don't from your third person perspective, why don't you account what happened to us? I mean, let me just give you the highlight. We were accosted.
Oppressed. Some would say oppressed.
Oppressed by men who got very cross with us. Connor, go for it.
So, Nick's kind of comically taking notes on his very large notepad when a guy who I thought was another customer who seemed to be like a local, homeless guy who's just hanging around because he was putting stuff into bags. It seemed like he just had bags of trash with him. Come to find out, he is an employee of the store, but unmarked. He's not wearing any sort of uniform.
He's wearing sweatpants.
Yeah, and look, that's fine, but we had no way of identifying him as an employee initially.
Very unprofessional.
And hey, that's fine, but So he sees Nick taking notes, and immediately, and I even tell Nick, he dimes on him. Immediately runs up to the guy at the counter, also not wearing any kind of uniform, by the way, and tells him, like, hey, there's guys, blah, 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 writing notes, which not illegal. And then
Not illegal.
that guy from the counter, different guy, who's wearing a hat, to differentiate the two guys, he comes up and starts questioning Nick, where are you from? And Nick's not prepared to, like, get accosted. We're having a good time, by the way, up to this. I mean, you know, we had problems with this 7-Eleven, and we have many, many more problems at this point.
Yeah, compounding problems.
Compounding disasters.
What he says to me, what the exact words that he says to me, this is the Hat Man. He says, who are you? What are you writing? And who sent you? Who sent me? Who sent me? I mean, you don't ask a question like that unless you got something to hide. Let me just say that right off the bat. And I'm definitely.
They did.
They definitely had
did.
something to hide. It's at this point that I noticed that the ground is not only have a little spill of coffee on it, but that it's littered with bags of garbage, actual garbage that is leaking out onto the floor. And
I saw blood.
Blood, we can't confirm or deny. Definitely red.
I saw red in more ways than one.
Oh, yeah. The guy who initially spotted me, Mr. Sweatpants Man, his eyes got so wide when he saw my legal pad. I mean, it was like a deer in strobe lights. So, this sleeper cell starts interrogating me. My response to his question, his interrogation, his line of inquiry is...
Inquisition.
Inquisition is, I'm from nowhere, man. And that seemed to confuse him enough for us to make our escape.
I did still awkwardly buy in Arizona. And by the way, at this point, after how we had been treated, I didn't even want to buy anything.
No.
I didn't really want to buy anything when we went in there in the first place. It's not the 7-Eleven I wanted to go to. And by the way, the last time I went to this 7-Eleven, which was maybe a month ago, not that long ago, I had a similar experience. It was different employees, but they're just watching you the whole time.
I feel like I was violated in a way. I feel like there was some sense of me that was lost. From the time that I entered to the time that I left, I came out a changed man.
And Nick definitely did not have hiccups when we walked in, but this man had hiccups when we walked out. So,
exactly.
I don't know. I mean, I'm just saying.
I'm saying
look
that
at the
as
facts
well.
Here.
Oh, and I had to piss. That's their fault.
It is.
Let me just go through these
Nick's
other
notes are very difficult to read. We're having a
no
tough time.
taquitos. The taquito time was closed. No taquitos. Can you believe that, folks? 7-Eleven, no taquitos.
Not only did they not have taquitos, in some ways they had negative taquitos.
Negative taquitos. We actually, for the first time in this podcast history, went and did some background research ex post facto. That's after the fact for you Latin fanatics out there. So here's a Google review from a man named Pestilence. This place is rarely ever stocked, with the items sitting in the isle in front of where they need to be. The cashiers tell you the thing to load your cash card isn't working, and will continue to have a conversation. The taquitos and other stuff is rarely ever fresh, and management seem to do nothing about it, even with all the negative reviews. Originally a great place that has went down the gutter, sadly. It is better to just go to the 7-Eleven down the street, which we tried to do. And here was the response from 7-Eleven. That doesn't sound right. End. This 7-Eleven is not open 24 hours. Don't try to come this location in West your time, because most time at night this location is close.
Now, folks, I will say, I don't know how much we can totally trust some of these reviews, because you have to keep in mind what kind of person is reviewing 7-Elevens, and no one's leaving positive reviews. So it's only going to be negative, and people are clearly, they don't know how to write. But something very funny was said that I noted to Nick earlier in the first review that he read, which is they mentioned that the taquitos and other stuff is rarely ever fresh, and the management seemed to do nothing about it, even with all the negative reviews. So what they're implying is that they actually think that some manager, which I just can't imagine a scenario where I'm the manager of a 7-Eleven in like an area with a lot of 7-Elevens too, and I'm thinking like, oh, let me go check Google reviews for the fucking 7-Eleven that I manage. One of probably like 8. So that's a little funny in and of itself.
I think this podcast is going to change things. Let's be fair. Let's try to read it from the employee's perspective here. You know, let's try to flip the perspective.
I mean, and I get it. To be fair to these guys, they're in the middle of the truck. The deliveries are going on. You know, maybe they just spilled the coffee all over their uniforms, and that's why they weren't wearing them at all. And whatever. They see these two white guys come in, and they're snickering and laughing and bobbing around, making little videos, and then they see one of them with, comically writing, loudly writing notes on a notepad about every observation, and they might think, these are some kind of vigilante health inspectors, some rogue health inspectors who are doing their inspections at 12:30 a.m.
I just want to meet the vigilante health inspectors, coming in with a corduroy jacket, Doc Martens, and black Levi's.
I will say though, you know what? Maybe they have been reading the reviews and they are paranoid that they're like, oh no, we can't let these guys come in and write another scathing
review.
Google review.
EK writes, I'm steady calling them, inquiring for something, and they are purposefully ignoring my calls. Do not go to the 7-Eleven. Worst customer service. They don't wipe down their credit card machines or the doors. Do not go here. Trash facility and trash employees. 100 emoji.
Why are you calling a 7-Eleven? Why are they answering the phone at all?
Yeah, I mean, you got to think about the type of person that, takes time out of their lives to review a 7-Eleven. I mean, Jesus.
Oh, you're dealing with sick individuals.
Sick.
I mean, anyone who would even think to review a 7-Eleven, I mean, they're not, it's a convenience store. You get what you get.
It's wrong. It's WR.
And then some people, can you imagine what if you were actually paying, like sign up for a Patreon?
I can't believe that.
To read or listen to
I know.
reviews.
And that being said, we just started a Patreon. You can sign up for our $5 per month tier and get exclusive access to things that we do for you. We just mailed somebody a bag of silver paper clips, slightly rusted. And we're also working on other prizes, like the backs of magnets, personal handwritten notes, in wingdings, of course, and other great things. So we hope that you sign up for that. Let's get to the vibe check. I think this is an easy 1 out of 7 vibes, or even 0.5 out of 7 vibes for me. What about you?
No points.
No points?
Just give it. No, it's just full
points?
numbers.
Whole numbers. All right, 1 out of 7. 1 out of 7. 0, we'll save 0 for something truly drastic.
Nick, I'm also going to give this one for the vibe. Yeah, you know what? Because I didn't like I've been there multiple times. It's getting a 1 out of 7 for me too.
Yeah, repeat experience definitely is a factor.
Bad vibes. The prices suck.
Overall,
very paranoid atmosphere.
Yep. No, not cool. Not cool. 3 out of 11 overall. And
I'm also going to say, if anyone is looking for a 7-Eleven to rob, not that I condone that kind of thing, and we would never condone anything like that, but pick that one, because they suck, and they deserve it.
Connor, what's your rating?
I'm also going to give it a 3. I'm going to save 1 and 2 for ones that are really terrible, or even, God forbid, a 0. But this 7-Eleven sucks. I hope to never go back to it.
Yep. It's a real polished turd, folks. A real spick and span piece of poo.
Yeah, and I didn't want to say that, but I just do want to point out, in case you guys like that line, the polished turd line, that I did actually write that. Nick wrote it down when I said it at the store.
Fucker's lying. I wrote it.
He's playing very fast and loose with his own notes, which he intentionally wrote in handwriting that I cannot decipher. Folks, welcome back to another episode of Illegal Crimes. Because when you want illegal crimes, you come to the 7-Eleven boys. You don't go to Delaware Dan. And folks, today we have a very special guest. Viktor is calling in live from Dubai to report on snacks and some illegal crimes he witnessed in the military.
I'm giving you my my consent to be recorded.
All right. Well, we don't need that. Welcome, Viktor.
Thank you
For joining the illustrious, very well received, critically acclaimed, awarded radio program.
I'm honored, and considering the large audience that this show has in the two countries that I am most linked to, the country of my birth, the United States, and the country that I currently reside in, the UAE. I'm very honored to be here, considering the fan base, and I'm sure that it'll garner me some fame.
Yes, the phrase we keep tossing around the office is exponential growth.
You know what? That's the grind set that we're talking about.
And we're going to be talking about grind set a lot today. Millionaire mindset,
sure.
All that stuff. Hey, I got a quick question, Viktor. Do they have 7-Elevens in Dubai?
You know, unfortunately, they don't. I was actually about to commend this wonderful show for its beautiful portrayal of 7-Elevens. You bring me back to my college days, to the 7-Eleven, like near Route 1 in College Park, Maryland. You know the one, Nick. I don't know, Connor, if you went to UMD or
I didn't. But I've been there.
You know, Viktor,
I've been there. I didn't
there's
study
a chance
there.
that one doesn't exist anymore. It's the one by Marathon
No,
Deli.
it's still there.
Yeah.
The
one
one
by Marathon Deli.
By the new Vigilante?
No, not that one. The one that's like right there, like off Knox Road.
Yeah, next to Turf.
Yep, it's no longer exists.
That's a terrible shame. That's a terrible shame, because that was a beautiful place. I used to go there very late at night to look for unhealthy snacks that make this country so beautiful. And there was a guy who worked there, an Ethiopian guy who looked like Hannibal Buress, and he knew me. He knew me, so it was like that's how I knew I've been going too much, because he knew me. And I used to get those, those aloe drinks, the juices that have aloe. I used to buy the huge one and like finish it. I got addicted to those at one point. And then one guy, this white frat guy that used to hang out with, he was a roommate of my friend. He'd be like, Viktor, you are the guinea pig for this drink. No one ever has consumed as much as you. You don't know what the effect. He like went off on me about how much I've been drinking that. So it was a real wake up call, but I wouldn't have experienced it if it wasn't for the 7-Eleven in College Park. So
now, Viktor, for the folks at home, what does the UAE stand for?
You see, that's an interesting question. And I will say that we stand for the UAE. And we stand for, oh, you meant the name. Okay. The UAE stands for the United Arab Emirates. And we're a country that as of this recording, tomorrow turns 52. So we're at a nice, beautiful age of midlife crisis.
Menopause.
I was gonna say midlife crisis
menopause,
age. Yeah.
Menopause is probably more accurate, because in Arabic it's a feminine. The country's a feminine term, so menopause is better than midlife crisis. You're right. I'll tell you what's very similar between the Gulf specifically and the US. The Gulf and the US, the very similar cultural thing: fast food. If you look at the top maybe 5 obese countries in the world, it's like Kuwait number 1, the US number 2, Saudi, and I think the UAE. It's like, we love fast food. Absolutely love it. Especially because like no one's going outside. We're all eating McDonald's and sitting indoors laughing. So yeah, we're up there with you. And that's why these recent McDonald's what's it called? Boycotts. They've hit them hard. They've hit them very, very. That's the big thing here. McDonald's, that's tough.
I saw a lot of the Gulf states like McDonald's franchises. Like they're, I guess the like McDonald's, like Oman, for example, were
Yeah,
like trying to like do damage control after
yeah,
like
because
all
that's
this stuff came
huge.
out.
That's a big market. You lose
Yeah,
McDonald's. If you lose McDonald's Kuwait, McDonald's is falling down. I'll tell you that. Kuwait specific, Kuwait is that's
is the
the
last
biggest market.
stand. Yeah, that's
That's the last time. And I'll tell you, because the Kuwait is very pro-Palestine too. Of the Gulf states, probably the most pro-Palestine, I would say, in terms of both government and people. So you
yeah.
are that's a dangerous one. They McDonald's needs to go out and quote Franz Fanon to them or something to keep them around.
But yeah, we were talking about the military service. Like honestly, just me talking about it already is an illegal crime right there, because
Ooh.
they like heavily threaten us while we're in the service to like we're not allowed to talk about it. We're not allowed to take pictures of ourselves in the uniform.
Yep.
Um, we're not allowed to do anything. Like at the time, we would get our phones like at most like 20 minutes a day when they would the days that they would give them to us, and we used to have these Nokias too. Like we were not allowed to bring like smartphones.
Mm.
Um, so they would be like, you are not allowed to tell your families about what you're doing or anything like that, like the details. But I would, because I would talk to my family in English. They don't understand English, so I could get away with anything I want. And it's not like they made it seem like they were so like well, like they had like bugs or whatever. They didn't have bugs. They had guys who were there who probably were like worked for them or whatever who would listen in. But these guys don't speak English. I could say whatever
Seems
I
like
wanted.
That's so inefficient.
I
Oh my
also like that
God.
you said heavily threatening, like threatening
Oh
you
yeah,
heavily, as opposed to a night. I like a good light threat.
the light threats are fun. Like the like instructors who would give us light threats were our favorite ones, you know. But the heavy threat ones were not. We didn't like them very much.
I imagine
But like
not.
but there was like illegal shit that would happen there, because I went in not with the group that went straight out of high school. I went in with the older group,
Mm.
and I assumed that most of the older group will have been delayed their service for a reason. Usually they delay service because you decided to go to college first. Um, so usually you would have had great grades or whatever. But I also later discovered that they also delay service for people who have had disciplinary issues
Mm.
or legal issues in the past in order to kind of punish them. So there were people who experienced things that I've never experienced that were in my group that were with me. And of course, like a bunch of them were like drug addicts. And I have to say that the UAE does not take a very, let's say, progressive stance on drugs. On like my second day, like consider this, I was like scared out of my mind already just about being there.
Mm.
And on my second day, this guy comes in, and he's like clearly been through a lot of shit in his life. First of all, he was 38,
Mm.
which is like, I'm 20, I was 24, and I felt old,
Right.
to be there. So this guy was 38, and he was like clearly had been on something in the past. And then at night, like I wake up in the middle of the night. We have like 4 hours of sleep. We were not sleeping well. Yeah, we would wake up 3:30 every morning.
Jesus.
Yeah. In Ramadan, by the way, it was worse. Ramadan less sleep, because they couldn't physically torture you, so they do it mentally.
Yeah.
So yeah, so this guy, like I just hear him talking in the middle of the night, and I was like, okay, like he's stuck in a phone, and then I realized no, he's talking to himself, and then he
Mm.
starts like freaking out. He starts like banging on the cabinets, and like he just took off his shirt for some reason, and like we all just got like we're like, please just take this guy out of here, because like we want to sleep, we don't have much time or whatever. And so like the instructor comes and takes him up, and then like 2 hours later, I hear like everybody get up, and then I stood up because I thought like they're waking us up, and then I see it's that guy. He's just been running around like escaping escaping the instructor. And then for like a week, they realized that like this guy's clearly not in his right mind. And in a week they just let him roam around the base. So he was just like roaming around.
God.
Yeah, and like I remember one beautiful moment where he just appeared is we used to do jujitsu lessons with these like we had these Brazilian instructors. Um, so we at one point they were like, okay, like they start making us do like competitions, like planking competitions or whatever to just get us hyped. And they were like, okay, get the two biggest problems because like they would put two different groups against each other. The two biggest problem guys in your group, whatever. And then out of nowhere, this guy appears. So we're like, yo, perfect. Get this guy in here. Let us start planking. Um, and then they like took him to the hospital or whatever, I guess, after that week. And then he came back like a bit more normal. But they like wouldn't like when we would do like when we would handle weapons, he would not be given one.
Mm.
And then the like running theory later that he basically confirmed himself is that he like played that he like did it on purpose. He faked all of that.
Right. Because then
You
it
know?
made he had less shit to do. He'd get to defer
Yeah,
some more. Yeah.
yeah. And like they were embarrassed about him. They like didn't want him to like be seen because like at the end of the training period, you have these guys come from like higher up uh, places to come and see like how much you've learned. And at that point, he got COVID.
Right. Oh,
Okay.
got COVID. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So they put him in the like
For the
special
folks
COVID
at
zone.
home, they're making air quotation marks
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Yes.
to imply that there was a lie being told.
Yeah, there definitely was because lo and behold, the second that we finished the training period and we all went home, he was there. He was with us. You know. But I think possibly the like clearly actually illegal thing that happened, most illegal thing that happened, the craziest story, is that at one point because for a year after you're done training for a year, it's 16 months in all, just to let you guys know. Um, they put you in a base to like work. You're working.
Right.
And I was put for the beginning. I was put in this air base. I was a firefighter. I was put in this air base, and it was like a nice military base, as nice as they come. They're not a very clean operation place, but as nice as they come. And then after a while, they're like, Viktor, you didn't get security clearance, so we're gonna have to move you to another base that does not need security clearance. And I was like, okay. And so they put me in this other base that was nowhere near, like, quality of life was nowhere near. And we had these guys that were like, again, had been addicts in the past. And I felt, you feel bad for them. You never like, if you have a better mindset on it, you never like blame them. But like there was one week where I came in on the Tuesday. We used to have our work was like 1 week there, 1 week off. So I showed up on the Tuesday and I see one of my friends that was in the other shift who was like not dressed in his uniform. And I was like, what's up? Like, what happened? And he was like, you remember that guy who was one of these guys who had been addicts? And I was like, yeah. And they were like, he snuck some shit into the base and got fucked up and like was running around the base naked.
Jesus.
Okay. Yeah. And then went into like the like dorms, not dorms, I don't know what you call them, the sleeping quarters, the barracks, I don't know,
Barracks,
of the like
yeah.
of the national service people, so not the actual like people who get paid to be there, and pissed all over them.
Jesus fucking Christ.
Yeah. So this guy,
God.
he was clearly taken somewhere.
Somewhere,
but
yeah.
somewhere, yeah. But I was like, holy shit, because you know what that meant? That meant we couldn't use our beds.
Right.
So for a week, we were sharing. Well, sharing is not. It puts a very different image in mind. We were taking bed shifts. 12 beds. No, 12 people, 8 beds.
My God.
Yeah.
So like 4 people just standing around or sitting.
Four people would do night shift.
Ah, yeah.
You
Yeah,
couldn't just sleep
but
on the floor?
I tried to go sleep in my car, but they're like, no, 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 just don't worry.
Just don't worry about
Just
it.
like
Yeah, no beds.
don't worry
Just
about
don't
it.
worry
Just like
about it.
trade beds with this guy. But of course, like it's not comfortable because like that like this guy's waiting to sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah, really. It's like you got a lot of like, I don't know, guilt almost
I would
probably.
not be able to sleep under those conditions.
Yeah,
It's
and
so
like
uncomfortable.
yeah, and like nighttime is not the only time you want to sleep in during that period of your life. You
I
know,
bet.
because there's like
Yeah.
nothing else going on, so you want to sleep just to pass the time.
Yeah.
So I remember like at the end of that week, my old boss from the airbase was like, "Hey, blank, there was a mistake. Um, you got your security clearance. You want to come back?" And I'm like, right away, just bring me back, right away.
No
Uh,
hesitation.
And
no
Victor, it's
hesitation.
interesting you bring up your commanding officer. We actually have a surprise for you in the
Uh-oh.
in the waiting room right now. I got your commanding officer who's very interested in the things you've been talking about.
Oh wow.
We're gonna patch
Oh
them in
wow.
right now.
Yeah.
Sounds great. He learned English.
He knew it the whole time.
He's
Oh
been playing
shit.
you. Long
He's-
con, buddy.
So they were hearing what I was telling my family. But you know, I have to say, I did my own share of like sneaking around because
Here we go.
when you're in the military service, that's what you learn. Like I'll say it outright, like I'm not a rule breaker really. Like I don't like doing that stuff because it gives me anxiety. But one thing you learn there is like you have to be a sneaky bastard.
Mm.
You know? So like right off the bat, like I remember I was talking to this guy one of the older guys in our group, and I was like, listen, like I don't know, like okay, my Arabic is not very strong when it comes to reading or writing because they make you take tests and stuff. Like part of it is you're taking tests. So he was like, listen, you want my advice? Tell them you don't read or write Arabic at all.
Mm.
Okay. So I was like, okay, I'll try. Are you sure? And he was like, yeah, tell them. So like I had to live a lie for 16 months that I cannot read a word of Arabic. And then like the rumors started spreading about why that was. And like people are like, oh, I heard he grew up in the US. He spent his entire life in the US. And then, obviously that's not the case.
Right.
And then I found out that guy who told me to make up that story had spread that rumor because he thought it would be more believable.
I see.
So
So
I had, yeah.
so where did you see like the most benefit of that lie?
I'll tell you something. If you don't read or write or speak, which sometimes I used to, depending on the people, sometimes I used to learn that and speak Arabic. If you don't do that, they treat you like you're a special needs kid.
Oh my God.
Honestly, like you get away with so much.
That's
I
just
didn't
old
have
Victor. Yeah.
Yeah, you get away with so much. Like I would, like for instance, when we do the exams or whatever, they would just get a guy to like quote unquote translate for me. But in reality, that guy would just give me the answers. Like he would pretend that we're like going through it together, but he'd be like, "This is the answer, right?" And I'll be like, "Yeah, right."
That's how we do it in America too, in our education system.
Yeah, it was a very similar education system in that regard. So I mean, but that also leads to like the point of it is you're supposed to be like actually learning this stuff. Like you're supposed to be ready because what happens is that you enter the reserve corps officially after you're done.
Right.
So like in the event that the country goes to war, you're the one who starts manning the bases back home.
Right.
And let me tell you, we should not be going to war because aside from the obvious reasons, because if we go to war, those bases are falling apart because first of all, they do not care to teach us. They don't give a shit. They just want it to pass. Okay.
Right.
Like I'll give you an example. Like when we do the shooting training, they would tell us, listen, if they ask you, tell them that you shot this many from these distances and you did this and this and this. And we didn't do any of that.
Isn't that kind of important? Should there be military conflict?
Oh my God.
You would think so, yeah. Times when like we would have to be during the firefighting training, we would have to be like doing like hours a day of like lectures. Okay, but what would actually happen is that we'd get the instructor come in. He'd do 15 minutes of lecture, um, and then he'd be like, "Okay, I'm gonna go. Don't sleep." But he's telling us to sleep. Don't sleep. And if anybody asks who's supposed to be in charge of you guys, say this guy's name. Like he threw it on this random instructor. So like we would do like 15 minutes a day of like lectures to learn how to be firefighters.
Seems like that's like really important information that should be passed along.
Yeah. So I'm an officially trained I have a training certificate as a firefighter, and I do not know shit. If you put me in the same place as a fire, I cannot put that fire out. It's not gonna happen.
It's like, oh shit, let me grab this olive oil. That'll work.
Yeah.
By the way, I want to interject real quick with some hot news. Speaking of, lies and wars, George Santos was just expelled from the House.
Oh no.
The boy, the diva himself.
You need to have him on the show.
We do. I'm sure he's got lots of shit to say.
He's got some good stories.
He's honestly maybe my favorite politician in the U.S.
Mine too. The sassy sassafras.
He really is the sassy sassafras.
I just love his policies. I'm not so much a fan of his writing.
Yeah, he speaks the truth. What can you say?
He's truth to power. This is an affront to justice everywhere.
Truth to power, yeah.
Well, it seems like he would be a shoo-in for the UAE military.
It seems like
just lie your way through it.
Definitely.
I'm going to take a quote. Dr. King, Martin Luther King, if for those at home, he said that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere.
Beautiful.
And I think that is a parable that we can take with us in light of this news and in light of the injustices that occur everywhere.
Yeah, for sure. I think George Santos is a martyr.
He's a martyr. He is a saint. He is it's unfair what they're doing to that boy.
He's being crucified.
Sure. Crucified. Yeah. Well,
but I think he'll rise again.
They treat him like they treated Jesus.
I think that his logical next step is to join the UAE military, though, and become a firefighter.
I think he should, and I can teach him a thing or two. And I think we would get along swimmingly.
I think so too. He seems like a really good guy to hang out with.
Genuinely, he probably does. He's one of those guys where it's like he's so much fun until he starts talking about politics, and then you're like, okay, change the subject. Let him talk about let him talk about I don't know,
like RuPaul or something.
Yeah, RuPaul's bring back that subject. That was, by the way, there was don't get me started about. That was what it was like in the army too.
Really?
I'd be like, I hope they do not talk about politics. Oh man.
Yeah.
They used to bring these guys to do like lectures for us. And let's just say some of the greatest political minds in the country would come and break everything down for us. And explain to us who is really out to get us.
I have an idea.
It's very interesting. It's very interesting because they insinuate, or not insinuated, but it said very clearly that there's two groups of people that were in collaboration against us, and I never knew that they were that close to the point that they would try and bring down this beautiful country. One of which, of course, is the organization the political organization that was in charge of Egypt. I'm sure you know the name. I don't really want to say their name.
The Mamluks?
Yeah, the Mamluks, yeah. Let's just say they're a fraternity of Muslims.
I see.
Yeah, and of course, very logically, their allies would be the LGBT community. I'm not
naturally.
Natural allies.
I'm not sure if you knew this, but they had collaborated. They are collaborating at this moment in time to take down the UAE.
That makes sense. You know, a lot of cross pollination.
For sure. You know, it's like if people have very aligned goals, which they do, both of these groups, I think we can say, then it's only natural that they would collaborate against a common enemy. You know. So I learned that very interesting political factoid from my time in the military. I also learned that Iran used to be Sunni before the revolution. So before 1979, they were a Sunni majority country. Did you know that?
Now I know.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting facts. You see, in my years, my master's degree in politics, I never came across this, and yet the great, you know, the great, you know, political analysts that we have teaching the members of our armed forces are really giving us something to be proud of, I have to say.
I mean, what is truth? I mean, really, you know, what is history? I mean, you weren't there. How did you know it wasn't majority Sunni?
That is true. That is very true. And to be fair, I'm not in the Politburo of the LGBT community or of the other, and so I wouldn't have known that they were collaborating against us. You know,
I think, you know, I don't think we're in a position to doubt these high-ranking political experts. You know, I think we should yield.
Of course, I agree with you completely. And let me tell you, like, okay, maybe I went on to work in politics, and maybe the politics groups that I went in to work in that work for the government would not have heard of this either. You know, but who's to say that they know more than the people that we're talking to? Who's to say? Not to a big segue here, but I also used to. So I was there in Ramadan, which is for those of you who don't know, the month in the Islamic calendar where Muslims have to fast, right? From morning to sundown, from the sun up to sundown, and I was not feeling the idea of fasting during military service, but it wasn't really up to you. Of course, you had to do it. You were being forced to do it. So I used my beautiful skills and resourcefulness to sneak in chocolate.
This is an illegal crime, by the way, guys.
There's another one right there to add to the
crime
list.
Against God and country.
Yeah.
I gotta ask, why chocolate specifically?
Well, it needed to be things that were small. It needed to be things that were small, like snacks that were small that I could just munch on when I got the chance, because I'd be there for a week. What I would do is I would sneak them in my socks.
That's high. That's
wouldn't they
level.
Melt?
No, because we didn't have to. Our bags didn't spend too much time outside, and of course, okay, maybe they did melt a little bit, but that's the good thing about chocolate is that
in your bag, not in your your. Oh, not the socks you're wearing. No. I see. That makes more sense.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
So I
back on board. Sorry about that.
I should have clarified that. That's my my mistake. It was the socks that I was packing.
Right. That makes so much more sense, because like I like the vision of your commanding officer be like,
sorry, give me one second. There. Thank you, brother. I'm going to watch tennis, bro. Yeah. Thank you. So I just had to pass the tight security that they have here
at the tennis courts.
Yeah. But yeah, what were we saying?
I like the image of your commanding officer, just like, you know, you're all in like a line, like in like a chorus line type thing. I don't know what it's actually called. Hands behind the back, and he's like inspecting the boots, and he says, "Viktor, why are your socks a Milky Way-esque color?
Why do I smell caramel?
Why do I smell coconut?"
The funny thing is, I actually did get caught one of the weeks. So usually I would bank on the fact that they would not search me, because as the American in the room, of course, being treated very differently than the rest of the people, they were like, he's not going to do anything.
Right.
This poor American fellow, he can't speak Arabic, so of course he has nothing. How could, that correlates to his how he is as a person. So usually they wouldn't check me. And then this one time, the instructor was like, "Bring me your bag." So I was like, "Shit." So he was opening the bag, and then I was like, "Listen, like I'm gonna tell you from now, like I have chocolate in my in my bag." And he was like, "Where?" And I just showed him in the socks, and he like looked at it, and he was like, "Just go."
I love how lax they are.
Yeah, he did not feel like doing anything, but he didn't care. He was like, "If you had your phone," he told me, he's like, "Do you have a phone?" And I was like, "No." And he's like, "Okay, just go."
He looks at your bag and he pulls out of the back of his pocket a bag of ring dings and is like, "Here, one for the road."
You know what's funny is that in one of my periods we flipped an instructor.
Mm.
And by flipped, I don't mean physically, because that would have been probably a bad decision.
Challenging.
Yeah, but no, I mean metaphorically, in the sense that the mafia flips
Yes.
a cop, a dirty cop, you know.
Yes.
So he would with a vig, he would take a vig plus of course the fee necessary, and he would bring us. He would sneak in for us some of our, of course, coming back to a previous discussion of our national cuisine, which was fast food. So in my last few days, or my last week, as in firefighter training, I was eating very good. Because we had this guy who was he was taking bribes on the low to bring us some food.
I love that image, just like sneaks in the bag.
I also love that Viktor earlier told us he's only been to New Jersey one time, and yet he already is talking about Vigs.
Of course, I have seen Sopranos. I have seen
Sopranos. I know. Yeah, Victor's a huge Sopranos fan. In fact, Viktor, do you recognize the mug?
Oh, that's one of the greatest movies of all time, of course.
Oh yeah, Danny Baldwin.
Folks at home, the mug says Cleaver on it.
Yes.
Watch it, Chrissy.
Watch it, Chrissy.
So if you haven't seen Sopranos, pause right here. Go to the library, rent the DVDs.
Watch 6 seasons, six part 2, so 7, right?
7 seasons.
So 7 seasons. I think it's kind of in the middle, or it's later on the Cleaver stuff happens. But
yeah.
Then after you get to the Cleaver stuff, either finish the whole series or stop there and then jump back into this.
Yeah, from here, yeah.
Yeah, at this point,
we're not going to
keep
talking, No, we're not going to be spoiling anything. It's just that something you have to have seen.
Yes.
It's just for you. Yeah. Now that we're back, what did you guys think of the show? To the audience.
The audience. Well, I'm polling the audience now. A Q&A.
Yeah.
Jim from Ottawa says, "I just wasted 59 hours of my life for this podcast."
Satanic black magic. Sick shit.
Tell Jim that I'm officially trained in jiu-jitsu.
Oh shit!
And I will do a front roll at him if he keeps talking like that, because that's the only thing I actually learned.
Now we are running a little low on time. You got any last? What you got?
I would like to say that it's been, of course, an honor and a pleasure, and I enjoyed this conversation very much. And I'm glad that I got to. It feels like if you're a Catholic and you're going to a confession, I'm getting all these illegal crimes out of the way, and because it's not like they're going to be posted or anything. Wait, what? It's being recorded?
Oh, this is live. This is live.
Oh, Boney Splits, you were working for the Secret Service the entire time?
We need to do something about getting 7-Elevens in Dubai. I would have thought. I mean, they're all over. Apparently, there's a few of them in Hong Kong, which I know is completely irrelevant. But you'd think that in a major city like Dubai, they would have some.
No, I agree with you. I think we definitely should have them, because we have this big culture of people who love to go to like our version of 7-Elevens, and like our version of what do they call them in New York?
Bodegas.
Like
bodegas.
Bodegas.
Yeah.
Our version of bodegas, we call them bakalas. And they're like a similar kind of thing. So I think that adding a 7-Eleven to the mix with this already existing culture would be a hit.
Oh yeah, it seems like it's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
7-Eleven reps, I know you spy on us.
Yeah, they
you're
listen.
surveilling us, so there's a free suggestion for you.
For sure. Thank you.
Straight from the
7-Eleven,
mouth of Victor.
give me a deal.
Do you have any
like a
ones?
name brand?
The UAE has instead of these places, we have tea spots. So people pull up in their cars, and it's like an eat-in thing, like eat in your car. I mean, like you park, and then they come, and then you can order tea and juice, and like sandwiches, and they make all kinds of different gourmet food.
Yeah.
Of course, by gourmet, I mean you are gonna get diarrhea, but it's worth it.
Now, what kind of tea are we talking about here? Uppercase or lowercase?
Yeah, both. You talk to them enough.
Oh my god.
But
I'm sorry about that, folks.
And they have their juices are like named. They have like names of people. So and they have this like thing where like if you can say give me like a Viktor juice, for instance. Yes. If they don't have a Viktor juice on the menu, they have like a random recipe that they do for anyone who asks for a insert name here juice. And
we need those here. We need those here in the States.
That sounds cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, Nick, we need to go to Dubai.
Well, we should go to Dubai. We absolutely need to. I think it's overdue.
Send money to the Patreon so we can go to Dubai.
Yes, definitely. Send money to me as well so that I can get a hotel, do a staycation.